This is Talk Business and Politics with Roby Brock.
Joining me now is John Brummett. He's columnist with the Arkansas Democrat-Gazette, and we are on the countdown to Election Day. Are you excited to get Tuesday here and behind us? How enthusiastic are you about the day?
On a scale of 1 to 10, I'm about a 5.2, which is high for me. And that's excited by my standard. And also Tuesday, I think I'm getting into outside my field, but I think it's a total lunar eclipse and a full moon and an election all in one night. I think there could be some eerie things happening.
Let's throw sunspots in there too, and sort of electrical interference, and really whoop up the conspiracy theorists there in a big way. So
that's easy to do, I think.
Will you accept the results of the election on Election Day, John? We asked this of candidates. I have to ask you.
I will, of course, I will. Which is not to say that I accept the results of tennis competition. And I thought the Razorbacks should have announced they weren't accepting the results of the 2-point conversion call. To simply say that they don't accept those, and see how that would work for them in the courts or in the standings. That's just something that crossed my mind.
All right. Well, let's begin with the highest profile races in Arkansas. They're obviously going to be the governor's race. I suspect the U.S. Senate race, just because the control of the U.S. Senate is going to be on the line. Tell me, do you want to make predictions, or do you just kind of want to say what you see happening trend line wise? I don't want to hold your feet to the fire on the amount of points or the score of the game necessarily. You tell me what direction you want to go with your prognostications.
Gosh, well, you're the interviewer, and you shouldn't oblige me. You should put me on the spot. So I'm ready for whatever you want to ask.
Sarah Huckabee break 60%.
See, that's the best question to begin. That's the best question of the day in terms of Arkansas politics. That race seems to be setting up sort of on a classic 60-40 as that being the over-under place. You could probably make some money by making book on 60-40 as the over-under, because it's in question. 4 years ago, I think Asa Hutchinson beat Jared Henderson. Remind me, it was 65-35 plus. It was like 67-33, 68-32, 66-34. So, and I think that was kind of a baseline for what a Democrat can expect. The Arkansas poll out of the University of Arkansas shows voter moods more desperate now in Arkansas than they've been at any time during the poll. People are unhappy with the way things are and more pessimistic about how they're going to be, which would seem, and they blame Democrats. So it looks generally that bad for Democrats, but two things are happening in that governor's race. Jones turns out to be an engaging type who is appealing to some independent types who may vote for him, while at the same time, Sanders seems to have chosen to run a right-wing race perhaps for her national profile, and not give that much attention to appealing in the independent center of Arkansas politics. So I talked to a Politico on the street the other day who said he thinks the Frank Scott vote in Little Rock is going to help Jones, and said Jones could get to 44%. I said, oh, no way. He'll be lucky to get, it'll be good to get to 41. I'm going to say he gets to 41%. That's what I'm going to say, 59-41. And that every other Republican on the ballot on a statewide basis will outrun that by several points. But that would beat, that would beat what Mike Ross got 8 years ago against Asa Hutchinson. I think that was like a 60-40 or a 59 or 50 or 61-39, something like that. So I'm thinking Jones is going to show a little something because of this confluence of factors. And I think thinking he's going to show something impressive at 41%, again confirms the pitiable state of Arkansas Democratic politics. But it's where I'm going to go. What do you think? Or you not want to play this game? You want to just put me on the spot? What do you think?
I just put you on the spot. I will
Okay.
I'll report the returns when they come in. So, I mean,
Well,
I do think Chris Jones breaks 40, and I do think Sarah Huckabee Sanders stays under 60, but I think she bumps up against 60, and I think he's barely over 40, and that still is a landslide victory for Sarah Huckabee Sanders. So I do.
Of course it is. Nobody's saying that it's not.
Right.
It's not. But let's say you're going to ask me about Bozeman or not. I think he gets above 65. I think he gets 67, 66, 67, 68 because he doesn't have the caliber of opposition. And because he has late with one of his sweet ads, he's talked about himself. He's presented his image as a decent, reliable, simple guy, which I think helps him with the same independence. While he polls less than her in terms of name ID, I think the head-to-head choice on election day with the full electorate, I think he outruns her by several points.
If you believe what you read nationally, there is a climate that has been breaking in terms of the headwinds for Republicans nationally in the last maybe 2 weeks or so. What do you think's driving that?
I believe things, as we get closer to the election, things tend to settle out to norm. And the norm is this. Inflation has people worried. The state of the economy, the state of people, the quality of people's lives, their mood of pessimism or optimism, plus the usual truth that the outside party in the midterm will be more motivated to turn out than the winning party, which has been playing defense for 2 years, and defense is not a good thing to play in politics. And I think as we get closer to elections, despite all the factors such as abortion that people say complicate the matter, I think they tend to sort of settle back to norm as we get down to it. And I think that's what's been happening. I also think that in the 2 states that I'm most interested in the Senate race, Herschel Walker got through a debate with only one blatant silliness, which was thinking that badge made him an actual policeman. But I think he sort of calmed a few swing voters who thought it was an outrage that he might go to the Senate. He normalized himself a little. And then in Pennsylvania, the unfortunate, tragic disabilities temporarily besetting Fetterman because of the stroke, and those were evident in a debate. They have nothing to do with his intelligence or his ability to perform or that he will get better, but I think those hurt. So those 2 races got closer. Then there's a lot of money spent for Republicans who've been trailing in Nevada and in Arizona, closing those gaps. So that's all that's happening. The Senate interests me enormously. I think the Republicans will take over control of the House. The Senate could stay 50-50 or go 51 or 52-48, either way, basically on those 4 states, Pennsylvania, Georgia, Nevada, and Arizona. And all those factors are at play. And, I'm putting in a column for Tuesday that I always write what's called a live column on election nights for Wednesday morning, and I write it about 10:30. And I say, I like being able to do a reliable draft of that column about 1 o'clock that afternoon. I just, and usually holds up with only minor changes. I'm going to have to sweat bullets about 10:30 or 11 on this one because this is actually going to be an unknown outcome and a really an unpredictable outcome. Yes. With great variance according to a few votes in 4 or 5 states.
And look, fate could have it like it did 2 years ago. We might not know the outcome of the Georgia race, and it may even go to a runoff, and we may have to wait another month. So we'll see what happens.
Very possibly. And Pennsylvania, do not forget, I believe Pennsylvania does not allow the opening of mail ballots in the beginning of in preparation to count until Election Day. And Election Day votes tend to favor, in Pennsylvania and elsewhere, Republicans because Democrats tend to vote earlier. And look again for election night with Pennsylvania in the spotlight for early returns, election night returns to show Dr. Oz ahead and for him to claim victory. And then they'll start counting thousands of mail votes, and they'll count mail votes over a few days, and it could change. And that kind of dynamic, very alarmingly, is what fuels these election deniers. And that could very well happen again in that race, and it could be the decider in who controls the Senate. So gird yourselves for that kind of thing. Elections are now high dramas with much at stake. As Joe Biden told us in his election eve address, this race is about protecting democracy. I thought he sounded a little shrill, but I'm getting a little pushback on that. But it's the way it could play out could be troubling for our democracy. Again.
All right. Two elections in Arkansas that I think have been pretty dominant in terms of people's focus and again, unpredictability, to borrow a word that you used a few minutes ago. The Little Rock mayor's race and issue 4, the recreational marijuana amendment. How do you think they both play out? I'll put predictions out there for those as well.
You will?
But I'll let you go first.
Yeah.
So that you'll look particularly intelligent, and then I'll look like I'm just, riding on your coat.
Well, I'm just telling you, I've actually seen surveys in the mayor's race, and they're all over the place. And 40% is the threshold for avoiding a runoff. And I had a smart politico stop me curbside the other day and said, Frank Scott's going to get away with it, by which he meant these issues of accountability and transparency and ethics and avoidance of freedom of information, that the demographics and the mood and the turnout of his vote in East and South Little Rock is more reliable than elsewhere. And the 40% being the threshold, thinks that's going to happen. I'm not so sure. And I don't know, man. I think it's going to be very, very close. And I'm told this is the least confident I've ever been in a prediction, but I will cite the natural advantages that Scott has and predict that he will, by some minuscule figure, win this. But it may take a runoff for him to do it. So that's the best I can do on that. What was the other one? Issue, or do you want to respond to that before I do issue 4?
And we'll go issue 4. I think that both Frank Scott and Steve Landers get over the 40% threshold. So one of them wins. I'm just not prepared to say which one. I could see it being a 45-42. I could see it being a 46-43. You could plug and play either one of them into the slot there on that one.
I think we're pretty much saying the same thing.
Over 50, so yeah.
We what it comes down to is we don't know. And now let's go to issue 4. But it's interesting. Issue 4, the polls, putting yours with the University of Arkansas poll last week. You got 58.5% for it. Then 50.5% for it, recreational marijuana. And then I think this UA poll had it where? Low 40s? Getting beat 43 to something, 41 to above. I do believe that is the direction. The starkness of this latest that takes it from about halfway to low 40s surprises me. I find that somehow dubious. I'm going to continue to say that this thing it will be one of the closest things on the ballot. I think the vote for it will be higher than the University of Arkansas poll suggests. I think the money spent, the benefit policemen, or just a hidden vote of people who are ready to legalize marijuana makes that one, a 49-51. Forced to predict, based on the trend line, I would say it fails 51-49.
All right.
What do you got?
Well, I think it's going to be a close race too, and I kind of agree with you on the 51-49 or somewhere in between. It's going to could be pretty razor thin on that, and I honestly, I'm not going to be surprised either way, I guess is my
Well,
point.
let's face it. When you make a prediction that I think it's gonna win by 51-49 or less, you're not really predicting that. You're just picking one of them out of the hat, because what you're saying is this thing is so close. So put all that together with a total lunar eclipse and a full moon, and could be a weird night.
Yeah.
Tuesday night.
I will say this about all of the issue campaigns. I think once the early vote boxes are opened and counted, that'll typically get us quickly, like within the first hour of election results being counted after the polls close at 7:30. That'll get you close to 10% right there. And I don't think those trend lines that you'll see will change much as the rest of the election returns come in. So if you see something with a 7 or 8 point lead, that lead may shrink, but I think that the fact that it will be out front will kind of be your indicator for the night. And if it is 50-50 or, just a little bit one side or one way or the other, I think we're in for a long night on those issue campaigns based on how I've seen returns come in the past. So
my first go-to on election night is about 7:34 p.m. to votepulaski.net. I hope I didn't just crash their website for when they download the early votes in Pulaski County. And I'll have what Clark Tucker did in Pulaski County against French Hill 4 years ago, and then what Joyce Elliott did 2 years ago. And will Chris Jones be getting more votes and wider margin than they? That'll tell me a little something about whether this idea that he is an especially strong, unusually strong candidate, that ought to show that. Because what happens in the second district is Elliott and Tucker got 60% plus and big leads in Pulaski County. They got wiped out a few minutes later when they downloaded the early votes in Saline County, or at least when I saw them. So, it's just the first thing I'll be looking at.
Just remember the second congressional district now is drawn a little differently in Pulaski County, and some of those precincts that'll be out of there may lean Chris Jones.
Well, I forgot the cut it three ways gerrymander of the recent Republican session. So yeah, that I'll have to factor that in to my contemplation. None of this is to say, go ahead.
Yeah, well, the Pulaski County vote will still be a county-wide vote, though, so you'll be able to see those precincts. So. But comparing them to Joyce Elliott and to Clark Tucker, it'll be a little apples and oranges.
A little bit. It'll be
pineapples. So
I'd say peaches and nectarines.
All right, oranges and tangerines. Gonna go with that one. So
I'll go with that one. All right. Just remember, all you Republicans who are preparing to chortle, we're just saying Chris Jones it may run better than Democrats have in recent years. Your Sarah is going to win a big victory by any reasonable consideration of margins. I think we're both saying that, predicting that. Aren't we? Yeah.
I believe that will be the case. There you go. People can cut and paste that soundbite from John Brummett right there. That might be the screensaver. If there's,
I've learned over the years how to prematurely respond to Republican chortling and trash talk. I've learned over the years how to do that. Not that it stops any of it. Okay?
All right. Take care. John Brummett, columnist with the Arkansas Democrat Gazette. Always appreciate him.
See you, man.